we ready?
You ready, Denise, or are you still?
Tell him you got to feed your car. You got to work.
Yes.
We're ready.
Okay, call meeting of the Delaware County Commissioners order Monday, February 2nd. Please stand as we do the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sure Steve and I's doing the roll call and the calls a little different. We're doing teamwork, so
Okay.
he's going to be doing that.
Well, we welcome everyone here today, and glad you can make it to our meeting. We'll ask for the roll call.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Mr. Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Craycraft here. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Reagan.
Present. Thank you. Well, we have no public hearing, so I'll entertain a motion for approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes for January 20th. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Okay, we have Nancy Larson out there, I believe, to introduce first practitioner for us.
Human Resources Director Nancy Larson. I'd like to introduce Janelle Horn. She is with Indiana Business Solutions. She's the one that helps manage our clinic. She's going to introduce our new nurse practitioner to you. Janelle.
Good morning, Janelle Horn, IU Health Business Solutions. I'm the account manager, as Nancy indicated. I work with the Workplace Health Partners Clinic, and I just want to take this opportunity to introduce you to our new nurse practitioner, Dama O'Keefe.
Thank you. Well,
Hi, my name is Dama O'Keefe. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I graduated from Indiana Wesleyan University in 2013, and I've been practicing in the Muncie area since then with Dr. John Peterson. And I recently, in December, took the position at IU Health Business Solutions, and think it's a great opportunity to serve the community. So I'm really excited about that.
Stay right there. I also want to say that we've gotten really good reports back from her being a part of the clinic. Everybody loves her, and we're really happy to have her aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janelle did give us an update, and I was very pleased to look at the report, and 100% participation on being pleased with the staff, and that was a very nice plus for you. Okay, now we have a contract for agreement, the Delaware County EMS service agreement with IU Ball Memorial Hospital.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jason Rogers, the Emergency Management Director. This is the contract that we've been working on over the past year and has kind of been passed back and forth between the legal department at IU Ball Memorial Hospital and ourselves. We think that we've reached the final agreement and worked out all the issues. The last one, Ms. Murphy had some issues that we took back to them, and they did change. And we think that we're ready to go on this for signatures. Essentially, we've been working with the IU Ball Memorial Emergency Services Coordinator as well as their facilities manager, and the station is put together, ready to go. It's got an ambulance in it sitting and waiting, so we can get this signed, get it back from them, and we'll open that ambulance station to the west side of Muncie immediately.
Very good. And Mr. Murphy, was there something we wanted to?
The only question, and Sherry raised it over the weekend, was who should sign the agreement. And in my opinion, Jason could sign it if our motion authorizes him to sign. It's really, the party is Delaware County Emergency Medical Services, so he could sign for that party as long as the commissioners give him that authority. Otherwise, I thought it was a very good agreement. It's kind of an interesting trade-off between our leasing the space and, on the other hand, providing services to them, so it's really at low cost.
And we do appreciate all the work that's been done in this, so.
Jason and I looked at this a couple weeks ago, I believe, when you got it back. And Mr. Murphy, as long as you're okay with it, I'll make a motion that we accept this contract and give Mr. Rogers the authorization to sign the agreement.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
I'll let you know as soon as we get it back from them, and hopefully this is the last time that I have to be before you on this matter. Thank you.
And how many stations do we have now?
We opened this one, this will be our fifth station throughout the community.
In the same man hours? and-
Yes, we're essentially shifting crews. We used to have one station, and all of the crews worked out of there. And to help with response times, we've started moving them out into the community. We've got one to the east, one to the west, one to the north, and this one will essentially take 3 minutes off of typical responses to the area of Ball State University and west of the west side of Muncie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Going down to a resolution for identifying partials.
Can we do appointments? I've got a few things I'd like to go over.
Well, sure.
Speak louder, you guys, please.
Appointments.
The Metro.
Mics, please.
You got
Okay.
that turned up?
Let me set it on. It can't go above 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it now?
Yeah.
Can you hear? Okay. On the Metro Planning Commission, I believe they're going to have a meeting this week, and need to try to get a couple of appointments on there. I believe Mr. Henry said he would like to be on that board and replace Larry Bledsoe. And I've also received some information from Teresa Hensley that would like to replace Tom Green on there. I'd like to make a motion.
I'm sorry, who was the second one?
Teresa Hensley. And I'd like to make a motion to have Shannon Henry and Teresa Hensley appointed to the Metropolitan Planning Commission.
I'll second.
I'll pass.
We're not voting yet.
Oh, I'm
It's a
sorry.
motion and
Okay.
a second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Pass.
Next one, had some phone calls about the Fair Board also. And I think the Fair Board that we have has done a very wonderful job, the people that we have on it. And I'd like to make a motion that we keep the Fair Board the same. And I know, Sherry, you've mentioned about Mr. Henry going on the Fair Board.
I asked him if he'd like to.
Yeah, and I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Henry replace Ms. Reagan as our ex officio on the Fair Board, and I'd like to make that as a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
I'll pass. Okay, very good.
Well,
One more.
and then on the Drainage Board, I'd like to make a motion that Brandon Murphy replace Jake Dunick as the attorney on the Drainage Board. I'd like to make that as a motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
One second. Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes.
Then the last one, I guess we need to make this that Shannon Henry's going to replace Larry Bledsoe on the Drainage Board. I'd like to make that as a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. King,
Yes,
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes.
and that's it, Sherry.
Okay, very good. Okay, now we're going to go down to resolution. I'm sorry?
Yeah, since you just did appointments, I thought there weren't any names on there, but
I think we should have comments maybe at the end of the meeting.
okay, well, in the past, you were allowed them as you spoke on certain things, and since you're dealing with appointments now.
No, we're down to resolution.
Well, I stood up as if you were finishing up the appointments. I mean, I can do it at the end. It has to do with appointments, so if that's when you want me to do it, that's fine, I'll do it
Let's
then.
do it at the end. Okay, resolution with the property owners. And Janice here from the auditor's office.
Janet Kessler, tax sale clerk. Yes, I have a resolution per your approval on vacant parcels that have been in multiple tax sales. And as you can see on Exhibit A, there is severe delinquent taxes owed on those. Any questions?
And Janet, how is it we have this if there's two property owners on each side, one on each side that would be interested?
Once you approve this resolution, then I send out letters to all adjacent property owners.
And do they make offers to you then?
They just fill out an application, and then if there's multiple adjacent property owners, then
You do a drawing?
we do a drawing,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Appreciate all your work on that. That's resolution 215.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2015-003.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, any department heads, elected officials like to speak?
I just got something, Sherry.
Sure.
I apologize for not being at the last meeting, but I was in a conference last week that has to do with my regular job, but I did go over and watch the video, and I did see in there where you said something about doing a study at the highway. Can you inform me on what the study is and
Yes, it's,
and who we might have do the study, please?
sure. It's, a lot of departments are having to do more with less money. So it's just an efficiency, and I'm putting some fellows together. So far, I have Mike Ross, Doug Brown, and Joe Russell on the committee. And they're just looking at the numbers, the equipment. It's very disappointing when we find out that our dump trucks are 20 years old, and the newest one, I believe, Chris, is what, 4 years old?
At least 5 years.
5 years old, the newest one. So it's very disappointing how you can do a good job with equipment that's needing to be repaired all the time. So I just, and we did pass a 60-day hiring freeze so that we can look and see if we're just doing the best we can.
So you just put a committee together that's...
They're just, they're not getting paid, they're just volunteering to look at the numbers. It's very disappointing when you ask someone if we have a tractor that has a 60 horsepower and 1,000, what is that, PTO power, and they don't know. So maybe we can find the equipment that we're paying insurance on.
And what was the third name, Sherry, please?
Joe Russell,
I got Joe Russell, Mike Ross, and
Doug Brown.
Doug Bruno.
He ran the city for about 2 years.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll look at monthly, weekly reports. Weights and measures turned in there. Very nice report, Mr. Brennan here. And then the circuit farm. Entertain a motion to pay the claims of $886,336.57.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes. Now we will take questions, comments, and answers.
Jim Arnold, 300 East McCullough Boulevard. And since in the past you kind of allowed speaking during the specific items on the agenda, since not, I guess the questions I had, there's 3 different things I wanted to address, so now they're kind of bunched up here at the end. First one was concerning the appointments, since Mr. King had made some, and not that I was serious when I made my comment last meeting that I would actually make it on the board, since I've questioned certain things with the county. But I did think it would be nice that those positions were advertised to the public, both on the website and on the Star Press, at least where they could put it online, so that other people would be allowed to consider those positions. So I just basically want to go on record as requesting that you do that. The second thing was, and I did speak with Mr. Craycraft today, and I guess I don't want to repeat questions at the risk of getting honorable mention in the funny papers on the weekend, but I just wanted, and I'd asked him if he'd made any progress on putting the invoices online. He said he was looking at different options, and I recognize, as he said, he's taking a new position, he's very busy, he's bringing things up to speed. And on that, I just wanted to go on record as requesting that the invoices do be put online so that taxpayers could view them. And my third question, and I'll be very careful, have tried to follow proper decorum. I won't mention any names, and I won't make any accusations, but I do have some questions for you. At the last meeting, Mr. King wasn't able to make it, and he's addressed that. But citizen spoke to you, Mr. Tom Terry, and he had presented folders or information to both the other commissioners who were present. And I spoke with him after, and I had asked him and got a copy of the folder that he would have given to James King, Commissioner King. And so my question is, as either of the commissioners who were present who received this folder, have you read the folder, the information?
No.
No.
Okay, so I guess, is it safe to assume that you've also not contacted Mr. Terry regarding his concerns?
That's correct.
So, and it's also safe to assume then that you did not contact Madison County to follow up on Mr. Terry's concerns?
No, I did not.
Okay, so my question is to the commissioners, do you think that there's a problem, or I'll be careful saying conflict of interest, but do you think there's a problem with having a principal or owner of the company that's doing the cyclical reassessments for Delaware County properties sitting, or previously sitting, on the Property Tax Board of Appeals?
I'll be honest with you, that is one board that we are still working on. We're looking for the best people to serve us.
Okay. Well, my concern is, and I'm not a lawyer or attorney, so I can't tell you what the legal decision might be on that, but as a taxpayer who's had to appeal my property every year since 2007 or 8, who has seen my house, which I have an appraisal for at 185. Currently this year it's assessed at 239. I've appealed it, have not received any okay on that yet. In the past 3 years, the assessor returned it to the 185 and also told me that next year you won't have to deal with this. Well, I'm still dealing with it. In fact, a couple years I received assessments as high as $269,000. And if anyone would like to buy my house for $269,000, it wasn't previously for sale, but I would accept that offer. But my concern is, for myself or for any taxpayer who appeals their property, in my case, I've got an appraisal which shows that it's assessed too high. And yet I know that if the assessor doesn't fix it the way he has in the past, where it's a 1-year fix, and it actually goes to the Property Tax Board of Appeals, then I'm going to have to appeal in front of a board member who is a principal in the company which incorrectly assessed my property in the first place. So that might put him in a position where he might feel inclined to defend the accuracy of his assessment. So I see that as a problem, and I would ask you to do that, because I did read the folder, and I do see that the person, like I said, I won't mention the name, but who has sat on the Property Tax Board of Appeals has shown in some contracts, and Mr. Terry had nice orange or pink or whatever bright color that is, stickies that would take you to the place where you saw his name on those contracts. So I just want to go on record as saying that concerns me, that we have a person on the Property Tax Board of Appeals who seems to have a vested interest in defending those assessed values. And that's one of the reasons why it would be nice to have these board positions advertised. I know it's probably hard to find people to serve on some of these boards, but then again, there's a lot of good people who might serve were they aware that we have these positions out there. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Level 2 or 3 to be on that board, correct?
I have heard that is the case, but I also heard that the commissioners can waive that waive that decision on who they have. And, I would like to think that you could find some level 2s or 3s. I know there's not a whole lot of those, but you might also look at appraisers or people who obviously would know values of properties. But again, my concern is that we've got someone who might be defending the accuracy of the statements or the assessments made by his company.
Your point's well taken.
All right, thank you very much.
My name is Tom Carey. I've got a couple things, just something that Jim said. I think I mentioned it last week. I think an appraiser would be super to be on that people board. And most counties have an appraiser. The other thing
And they don't have to be a level 1, 2, or 3?
I think you have to have a level 2 or 3 on that Peterbilt board, but it would be wonderful to have an appraiser on there too. And with those counties that have appraisers, there's hardly anything going to the state. I have one other question.
That is nice to know.
I have one other question. I have turned in a lot of incriminating evidence about misrepresentation in presenting assessment contracts. It has been weeks and not one commissioner has got back with me or the taxpayers on what they are going to do about it.
Well, we hire a lawyer to give us advice, so Mr. Murphy, if you'd like to fill us in a little bit.
I've looked at these contracts, and I've looked at the evidence that Mr. Terry has presented. I don't see anybody else raising these issues. He does have in his profession an interest in these proceedings, and my advice to the commissioners, to some extent is private, to the extent it's public, it is that we are moving on. We'll have other contracts in the future, and we're not going to go back and investigate what happened years ago. So that's where we are on that. I did talk to Mr. Terry this morning, and I am willing to meet with him and with respect to some of his recent complaints about access to public records, and I would be happy to set that up for later this week.
So it's my understanding you're probably not going to do anything.
My advice to the commissioners will be private, but we're not going to do anything in a public meeting today. Correct.
And I appreciate you sitting down and talking to him in private.
You're not going to do anything public. I just asked you if you're going to do anything about it in the future.
Well, that will be up to the commissioners based upon my advice.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim Arnold again. With all due respect, if I can speak again, my concern is there, and when I spoke with you a couple meetings back, I mentioned due diligence, and I had mentioned specifically the situation. I know those were different seated commissioners. None of you were here when with the VAT fiasco, we paid some portion of that $1.5 million that we spent with VAT was for a windmill that was never shipped or never built, never shipped, never received. Now the first payment might have been when we made the deal. That might have been okay, but the second 2 payments when the part was never shipped or received, and yet we paid for it all 3 times. My concern is in that case, and again in this case, the attorney might have one recommendation he makes to you because you're looking out for the commissioners. But back in that situation, a year or so later after the VAT, when we were out $1.5 million, the determination was, well, the man that cheated Delaware County out of $1.5 million doesn't have the money. You can't get blood from a turnip. But the decision was, well, we're not going to pursue that. My problem wasn't with the guy that cheated Delaware County out of the money. It was with commissioners who approved a contract, which they shouldn't have when we went ahead and paid when we didn't have it shipped or received. And this, to me, might be a similar situation. He might have a role as the attorney protecting your liabilities. I'm asking you to look out for the taxpayer so that we don't get a situation where we're out $1.5 million or we're out money that we've paid that we shouldn't have done.
And Jim, I wanted to tell you last time, and I didn't speak up, but about the claims that we're going through. I know you're not really raising that issue right now, but down in the auditor's office, those people are called auditors for a reason, because they do audit all those claims. And if they find anything that they think looks suspicious, they are to tell us. That's the way we were taught. And that's the way, when I worked there, I did it. So I have faith in those people that if they find anything, they will let us know. But, because we do not look at all 2,000 claims that come through monthly. But I wanted to stress that point out to you, that they are audited.
Okay, and I appreciate that you know, that you have confidence in them.
I do.
And, I mean, that makes me feel better, but I still have a concern, and again, this was prior to any of you, and I know it wasn't the same highway superintendent either, but when we go back to the example where we spent $12,000 for a used pickup truck, where a person was probably upside down on their loan, and the truck was probably worth $8,000. So that went through the auditing process, but if it was approved by the powers to be, then it still happened.
That's right.
So things like that still concern me. I'm glad to know that you're,
Trust me.
you know, and wasn't really questioning the auditors themselves, but I was concerned with some of the things that have passed through in the past, and I would hope that we would exercise due diligence so those things don't recur.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
We'll work our best. Okay. Fields.
Steve Fields. I want to remind the commissioners of their fiduciary duty. When you've been presented evidence of fraudulent contracts that with estimates of at least $1 million over and above what the contracts should have been, that you should take action on that and try to recover that $1 million. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to do so. And you know, just because it's a past contract and past commissioners, don't buy that. I mean, $1 million is $1 million, and we also need to send a message that that you as commissioners aren't going to allow that to happen in the future by going after the fraudulent contracts in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Entertain a motion to recess.
Motion to recess.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Absolutely.
Ms. Reagan.
Yeah. Thank you.